So I says, yo, haha, it's all in the words.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Man. All right, I'm 46. All right. And I think growing up in the 80s was pretty fucking cool. Basically because of the music. All right. Comedy was comedy. Scary movies was scary movies. All right. Bad thing about it was I had to be taught how to act whenever I was not in the home as a brown person. I had to watch the police basically bust down the door and rush into my home, chasing after my parent or parents. It was, let me tell you a short story. I don't know all the details except for this. My stepdaddy was upset be- with the neighbors across from the apartment that we stayed in. You know what I'm saying? They constantly um, would aggravate us or aggravate, the brown folks that stayed in our apartment. You know what I mean? Saying derogatory things and hold up, I don't know the definition of derogatory, but they were saying fucked up things to the brown folks in the apartment that we stayed in, apartments that we stayed in. And so it was a day that it was just like, man, he got fed up. He and the people got into an argument. They ended up calling the police. The police wanted my stepdad to come to him and talk to him. He was like, fuck that. Was walking up to the house. You know how the police be like, freeze or I'll shoot type shit. He was like, well, you just gonna have to shoot me type shit. These aren't, what I'm saying, the real words, but I'm, ad libbing, whatever you call it. I'm just making some shit up that's real close to what happened. I remember that they was beating on the door, and my mom and my stepdad was screaming at them through the door, like get the fuck away from the door, leave us alone, type shit. And they screaming back through the door, open up, we'll bust it down, all that kind of good shit. And so eventually, my mom came and not came, but my mom took me to the bedroom. We was only in the one bedroom house apartment, but she put me in the bedroom, and she told me that whenever the police come through, watch what they do, listen to what they say, don't take my eyes off of them. Giving me instructions on how to act, how to be. You know what I'm saying? And sure enough, stepdad came in, they bust down the door, and they rushed in. Next thing you know, it was me, my mom, my stepdad in the far corner of the room, and I don't know how many, but there was a lot of cops. You know what I'm saying? Rushing through the bedroom door, and they was on one side of the bed while we was on the other side of the bed, like I said, in the far corner. So I had to go through experiences much like that a few more times in my life, and I had to constantly worry about walking up and down the street and being assaulted by somebody just on some random shit. You know what I mean? It's just the fear of having to think that each time I'm walking up and down the street. You know what I mean? To the point where if I hear a car coming, I move further away from the street into people's yards. So in that way, if they were to throw objects at me or something like that, you know, they gotta have a pretty damn good aim. It's crazy. Now, here it is. We're dealing with critical race theory in these public schools. What's so fucked up is that while I was in public schools, I was forced to learn his story, history, his story, meaning the Caucasian people, you know what I'm saying, his, meaning the man, quote unquote, meaning his story, meaning whatever they wanted to tell us and try to make us believe about what had happened through time. You know what I'm saying? Fucking like Columbus. Okay? Now we all know the truth about what happened with Columbus and his trips over here. As a matter of fact, we all know by now about the fucking the truth about who was really here before the Spaniards started traveling around, the Vikings, all that shit. You know what I'm saying? Fucking come to find out, it's so much truth out there that people have been trying to hide it for years when it comes down to this racial divide. So here it is. Like I said, it's fucked up that I was force-fed a bunch of bullshit growing up. When I got into my later 20s, that's when I had to unlearn some shit. Because it's a clutter to have in a person's mind. When I sit back and I look at other brown folks celebrating holidays, I shake my head like, for real? When I see brown folks going to church and doing religious shit, I shake my head and I'm like, for real? The propaganda that's inside of the Bible, I shake my head. You know what I'm saying? It's very male chauvinistic. I shake my head. I wondered why I wasn't down with religion whenever I was younger, but I was afraid to let religion go based off of, what's that? We have a jealous God type shit. But yet, every experience is supposed to be a learning experience, a planned experience, a divine experience. You know what I'm saying? Something that was planned to happen. I'm like, for real? For fucking real. So here it is. Nowadays we're dealing with all these, no, not nowadays, but throughout the years we've been dealing with all these abortion acts and abortion rules about who can and who cannot have abortions. But yet, who says anything about stillborns? You know what I'm saying? Who says it's like saying that if your child is, if you have a stillborn, then you ought to go to jail because the woman couldn't bear the child safely, naturally. You know what I'm saying? A healthy child. It's like saying that she's got to go to jail because nature took over. That's some fucked up shit. But yet, here it is. You got two kids having a kid. Two kids having a kid. They're not even old enough to have enough experiences to raise themselves. They still need help from their parents to fucking mature in life. You know what I mean? But they can't have an abortion because of what certain people are sensitive to. That's some bullshit. So here it is. We live in a nation that's supposed to have so much superiority over a number of other nations, but yet we're dealing with these complications, these conflicts that are man-made. But in the Bible, we're supposed to be peaceful people. We're supposed to be humanitarians. It's fucked up how much contradiction and hypocrisy is inside that shit. And if I don't know the definition of that, and if I'm not saying it correctly, it's fucked up how the Bible's saying we should live like this. But people are using loopholes to fucking be a step ahead of the next person. When they sit back and say that there's so many crabs in a barrel within my culture, within the brown people's culture, lives. We're constantly pulling each other down. We don't want to see each other succeed type shit. But yet, when you go back to slavery, and when you look at the Willie Lynch letter and his instructions to other slave owners that says, hey, if you do this and do this and do this and do this, you'll have a productive fucking slave. Or you'll have a better plantation. Because your product will work the way that you need it to work. It's fucked up. You got one person calling another person, I want to say merchandise, but there's another word. There's another word for it. You know what I'm saying? That's like merchandise. You know what I'm saying? It's like a person is treated as an object that you can sell and do whatever you want to do with it. You can sit there in one chair and put your feet up on the back of a human being. But you see, they as in the people of that culture. I'm not gonna say race because not everybody from the race did that. But people that come from that culture of enslaving other people, using other people like that, they've been doing it for centuries. Dark Ages. Back when they was using knights and shining armor and shit. Back when they had kings over kingdoms. Kings and queens and shit like that. It's fucked up. You know what I mean? It's real fucked up. But this whole thing about trying to hide the history of what these people have done to another race, it's really fucked up. It's kind of like going back to how Hitler was burning books because he didn't want people to get certain ideas from these books. He wanted to brainwash folks to think the way that he wanted them to think. And the motherfucker was good at that shit. I mean, to a point where he's heroic only because he was able to create a nation that followed his crazy ass to death. Followed his ass until it got close to the end. And motherfuckers was opening up their eyes like saying, damn, this nigga's loopy, man. This nigga's gonna take us with him type shit. But I'm not the smartest person. And I'm not the dumbest person. I've done some research on the shit. And there's a whole lot of research out there that I could do. What I'm needing you to do is to question everything that I'm saying. Question everything that's involved with this topic. Question everything that it's about racial divide. And the haves and have-nots. Why did people do this to their own culture? And then why they do it to other people, other cultures. You know, it's real fucked up. And it's only a certain class of people that do it. That's what makes me shake my head the most. You know what I mean? You talk about people who the people that Caucasians calling other Caucasians white trash. Ain't that some shit? Just because they're not on the same tax bracket. Ain't that some shit? I forgot which island it was, but it was an island that was like, okay, the light-skinned people was saying that the darker-skinned people were ignorant and dumb and a waste of breath. So they split the island in half. And the light-skinned half of the island was more productive. It had more money. It was raising more money. It was more civilized type shit. But yet the other half of the island was damn near, everybody was in slums and shit. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with diseases, skin diseases, health diseases, and all kind of shit. It's crazy. Over a color. Over a color. Back in the day, the definition of white and black was so fucked up. You know what I'm saying? White being pure and good, wholesome. Black being evil, angry, all kind of shit like that. And yet they taught their children that. So here it is, Caucasians was able to teach their children what the fuck they wanted to teach them. And all the other races had to fall in suit, had to fall in line and learn that same shit. But yet, now they want to take critical race theory out of schools, public schools. They want to make these kids dumber, ignorant to what really happened. These Caucasians want to sit back and erase the shit that they did. They don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want the truth out. It's fucked up. Isn't that some tyrant shit? Some tyranny? If I'm not saying those words correctly, isn't that some shit where you sit back and you're like, do as I say, don't do as I do? It's some fucked up shit. Like I say, I'm 46. I was raised up through some of this shit. But I'm glad I wasn't raised up in the 50s and the 60s. Man, that was a hard time to be in. You know what I'm saying? The generation coming out of slavery. Very fucking hard time. There was a guy, a rapper, as a matter of fact, he tried to go a few days without fucking with any Caucasian products. As far as transportation, he didn't use any cars because they wasn't brown owned. You know what I'm saying? The cars wasn't produced by brown people. That's what I'm trying to say. The food that he ate, he would only limit himself to food that brown people produce. Places that he would sleep. Businesses that he dealt with. Come to find out, he got on the bicycle that a brown person built. And he said, you know what I'm saying, it left his body in pain because he was a pretty heavy set guy. You know what I mean? Or stout guy. When it come down to living conditions, he slept outside because there was no brown owned establishments. Food, he could barely eat because who's running the slaughterhouses? Even for a brown owned restaurant, they still got to get their meats from Caucasians. You know what I'm saying? Fruits and vegetables still come from Caucasian farmers. Not unless you're dealing with people who have organic farms in their backyard. Gardens, in their backyard. And that's basically how he ate. So it's crazy. And I've constantly went on the idea of, if I had enough money, I would want to create my own community. Not just my own community, but create a community where you have people who are like-minded that was trying to do, at least one general thing. Basically, if you had a factory that produced green products, meaning like windmills, things like that, things that would capture water so you don't have to pay a water bill. You know what I mean? Windmills so you don't have to pay an electric bill to the city and the state. Something like that. Then if you had that factory, then at least you would have to have a school to teach these people how to work in that factory. And if you have a factory and a school, you got to have a neighborhood. You got to have, a place for these people to stay. And then there has to be an agreement. And I like the idea about how the Spartans were portrayed, how they got rid of the weak in order to keep the strong within their community. Well, shit. If you want to have abortions and shit like that, then fuck it. Then have fucking foster care. Send a child. If you got a fucked up ass kid that don't want to follow your rules, that don't want to be, you know what I'm saying, be on the same track as everybody else, send the ass to foster care somewhere. You can always produce other kids. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy, man. That I would want to go that extreme in order to feel fucking comfortable. And in that way, I could basically be off the grid, or we could be off the grid, because it's fucked up that water is not free. But yet we got a water table underneath this all the time. It might be getting lower. Excuse me. The water table, the level of it might be, getting lower and shit, but it's there. You dig a well deep enough, you're going to strike water. You know what I mean? There's streams everywhere. Well, I ain't gonna say everywhere, but if you go to the right locations, you'll catch streams that got fresh water that's coming down from the hills where there's fucking ice melting. You know what I'm saying? And all you gotta do is conserve that shit. The earth isn't so fucked up to where it's not raining. We still got rain. And if you still need water, then you can use evaporation to gain, to make water. What is it? Dig a big enough hole in the ground, put some leaves in there, cover that shit with some plastic, and make that, you know what I'm saying, make the ground create sweat, basically, and gather it up in barrels. You know what I mean? There's all kind of ways to get water. God damn. But like I say, you got so many people who are willing to live their lives in a conditioned way. And it's fucked up. And you got so many people that are ignorant to the truth. And if ignorant isn't the right word, you got so many people who don't know the truth and don't want to know the truth. I remember when it was a bad idea to think outside the box. If you didn't think the way that other people thought, then you were a troublemaker. You were the weirdo. You were the one that everybody had to keep an eye on. You was a troublemaker. You know what I'm saying? A rebel type shit. And we had people like that on both ends of the races. So it's fucked up how you got people who got power and who are able to change laws that are up there fucking up the lives of other people. And they've been doing it for centuries. They've been doing it for decades. They've been doing it. Man, get rid of the motherfucking articles. Get rid of the motherfucking what's that shit that everybody signed? The Declaration of Independence. Get rid of all that shit and rewrite some new rules that we can all fucking agree with. They want us to vote for presidents. They want us to vote for politicians. Why can't we vote for humanitarian for humanitarian rules, why can't we vote for what's good for the people? It's fucked up. People who live in Detroit, in the poverty of Detroit, can't move because they don't have the means. They don't have the money to relocate. So generation after generation is just stuck. It's fucked up. People in Chicago, they can't get away from the violence because they can't afford to move. It's fucked up. Why don't you split the country up? If a person wants to gangbang and fuck up somebody else's life, let them live in a portion of the country that's designated for just them, so they can war with each other day in and day out, day in and day out. If you got people that want to get educated and go to school, give them a portion of the country so they can be educated without worrying about somebody crossing the boundary lines. Keep the shit secured. We got National Guard. We got an Army. You know what I'm saying? We got Marines. We got Navy. We got, you know what I'm saying? We got a military. Instead of going and fighting other people's wars, why don't we concentrate on this fucking war? The infrastructure is fucked up. So why can't we just make sure that the infrastructure is fixed once and for all? Why can't we create a utopia? Why can't we create a fucking, what you call that shit out there in the desert? When you think you see something, and when you get closer to it, it actually disappears, but actually creates something. And then the closer you get to it, it stays there. You know what I'm saying? Create a country and a nation that's going to give people the right to live the way they want to live without blending in with other people, without fucking up the lives of other people. It's crazy that you live on a block where if you're walking up and down the block, you're going to be bothered constantly, bullied by people who just don't give a fuck about your safety. Why do people got to be forced to live like that? Why is it that when children go to school, they got to worry about bullies? Why is it that parents can't educate their own children because they are forced to work? Schools are like daycare. The parents go to work, they got to send their children somewhere. And then when they got badass kids, how come when they really need help, there's no help to be found? It's fucked up. We got problems. We got problems. And all these different issues, they pop up here and there, and then they fade away. They pop up, then they fade away. It's kind of like watching the news, and the only news you're going to get is whatever news is spiking up the ratings the most. So then that way, these TV owners, these station owners, you know what I'm saying, they get paid. They get money. You know what I'm saying? People are getting paid because they own these channels, these TV channels, and they need the ratings in order to fucking get paid. But if I'm dumb and I'm just rattling off a bunch of bullshit, then prove me right. Tell me where I'm fucking up at. Tell me where my thoughts are being fucked up at. But give me some fucking facts. You know what I'm saying? Give me something that I need to research in order to get it right. It's crazy. I'm sitting up here watching Charlemagne the God off of The Breakfast Club. You know what I mean? If you don't know who he is, I'll leave a link to this video right here, and then you can follow that link to The Breakfast Club, and from The Breakfast Club you can find out who he is privately by going to his Instagrams, his Twitches, or whatever he has out there. You know what I mean? Just follow the link, do your research and shit. But I'll leave a link to this video down in the description box. A lot of us are fed up of having to hear about this shit. I don't like the news. I hate watching the news because I know that there's more shit going on than what the news is going to tell me. There's a child being abused every day. There's a child being kidnapped every day. There's a child being sexually abused, mentally abused, verbally abused, but that's not in the news. There are adults going through the same shit. They're being abused in so many different ways. That's not in the news. There's so many relationship conflicts, domestic abuse, but that's not in the news every day. They want to tell you bits of it, and then they want to sit back and say, hey, but the price of cars is cheaper at this dealership. Hey, the weather's going to look like this, and at least you get to go out and have you a little bit of fun. Hey, we got a festival coming in town. Distractions. They throw up all kind of distractions from what's really going on out there. You tell us all this shit, but you don't have an answer to help us fix this shit. And if you don't have an answer to help us fix this shit, then you sweep it under the rug like if it ain't there. It's fucked up. And then if you deal with somebody who's constantly talking about it, you call them crazy. Call them, like a fanatic or something. And there's something wrong with them because they can't be a positive person because they're always talking about the negative shit that's going on. How are they fucking crazy? What makes them wrong for reminding folks that this shit has not gone away? Obviously, if it had gone away, then nobody would have to talk about it because it's not existent. You don't have to breathe life into something that's not really there. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. It's kind of like somebody saying they don't believe in God, but yet they're constantly saying fuck God. It's like, if you're not believing that there is no God, then why are you even thinking about what's not there? It trips me out. So, the curveball in life, man, it should be like a fucking boomerang. It should come right back and hit you in the fucking head and make you change your idea of what needs to be thrown next. Throw a fucking stick. At least it won't come back at you. Throw a fucking pebble. At least it won't come back at you. But to throw a boomerang, the shit's gonna return. I don't know, man. I'm about to get off of here. I got passionate about this topic. I'm running my mouth. And I'm hoping that if anybody's watching this, I'm hoping that you will please question everything that I'm saying. Do some research on everything that I'm talking about. Form an opinion and share it with other people. I think you should share it with other people because you never know when someone's thinking the same thing that you're thinking. They just don't have anyone to talk to about it. It's fucked up to be in a crowded room, but you're the only person thinking about certain things. Everybody else is looking at you like you're the weirdo because you're the only person thinking about that shit. It's a lonely world out there. I remember someone said that you can drive yourself crazy trying to deal with the truth of life. That's why most people don't want to deal with the truth of life because it's so depressing. They'd rather sit back and distract themselves and deal with, the bullshit of life, the comedies and whatever other kind of distractions that they can have. Now, mind you, I know the shit exists, but I don't let it fucking get in my head all the time. I know I will be upset and passionate like I am right now. And I can't do that. It's unhealthy. I play my games, I fuck around, but I know this shit exists. And every now and then, I allow myself to take that memory or to take the latest action that, that I've just heard about. And I allow myself to ventilate and spew about it because I'm not going to hurt myself even further by holding it in. So, I'm going to get off of here, and I hope that someone's listening, and I hope that somebody can appreciate my thoughts and my opinion, and I hope that somebody, questions what I'm saying, do their own research, form their own opinion, and share that and talk with folks I hope that there's an answer for all this shit one day, so that way we can live in peace. We can have harmony everywhere. So I'm gonna get off here, man. You have a good day. You have a good night. You have a good morning. Hydrate. Eat well. Be careful of what you're eating out there. Be careful of what you're doing around other people. Other people don't care about your health. Please care about your health and care about the next person. All right? Peace.